Chapter 11, The Lounge. We can't meet on Valentine's Day. My wife will kill me. Frankie, Bam Bam, Bammer, Salerno. Jamie Goldberg Flans began 2005 with hopes of gaining membership in the No Surrender crew. Perhaps he thought Kellerstein was just play acting in his Nazi fantasies, just as he, a businessman, was playing biker. In time, Flans was given a list of rules for prospective members by Rippinger Fullinger. One of them forbade him from discussing club business outside the club. He understands that he is a patch holder 24 hours a day, whether or not he is wearing his colors. The club's guidelines states of any prospect. Everything he says or does in public can affect the club or the brothers. He also understands that if he gets out of line, that he is subject to be counseled by his brothers for his own good and for that of the club. Joining the club is not like joining a cult. The recruit learns to subordinate himself to the group. It's committing yourself to a lifestyle in which you do not look for how your brothers can help you, but for ways that you can be of help to your brothers. You always look to give rather than to receive. Goldberg Flans was voluntarily joining a feudal war and assuming the role of vassal. Never let a patch holder walk off alone in an unsecured area, the guidelines stated. If he is going outside his car, his bike, or even just out to get some fresh air, go with him. Watch his back at all times. While bikers had sponsors, Flans was beholden only to Big Paul Sinopoli, who had vouched for him. As the guidelines continued, remember that you are every patch holder's prospect, not just your sponsors or just your chapters. They were proven guidelines for running a club, but the reality of boxers' Toronto Banditos was less impressive. The No Surrender crew still had no clubhouse as of 2005 began, when little Mikey Trotta became a full patch member and George Pony Jasson was admitted as a prospect member. The next step for the No Surrender crew was a storefront on Jefferson Avenue in the West End Liberty Village district, a once industrial zone in the shadows of Lampert Stadium. The area had been home to the Central Prison between 1877 and 1912, but now there were yuppified condos, offices, and coffee shops creeping onto the land where prisoners had once been housed, tortured, and hanged. Boxer Muscadet instantly loved the area and soon rented an apartment in a nearby high-rise for Nina and their daughter, Angelina. Little Mikey Trotta had a good enough credit rating to sign the lease on the Jefferson Street property in early February. Ripper Fullinger and other members worked hard to install a bar in the basement, while an artist painted a mural on the wall for $50 and a case of beer. Much of the work had to be done at night, so that members with bail conditions that barred them from associated with known criminals could help out. Upstairs was a place to crash and relax, furnished with a couch and big screen TV, while downstairs was the meeting room for church gatherings. None of it was fortified, and it was particularly vulnerable to attack because of the big plate glass front window, the same feature found in the restaurants and boutiques in the same strip mall. It was a time of brotherhood and drugs, but not much business or expansion. The Quebec Banditos had dried up, meaning the No Surrender crew were on their own in Canada. They could turn to the Americans for advice, but that would leave them open to rebuke for not having sought advice about such important club matters as who should be admitted to the club. Instead, they simply went to Jefferson Avenue and chilled. Members particularly enjoyed using Percodan tablets, which were easy enough to obtain since several members claimed disabilities and had prescriptions to obtain painkillers legally. They called them groovies for the relaxed, worry-free way they made them feel, and the Banditos found them particularly comforting when Wiener Kellerstein was around, cranking up the tension level. Since the Jefferson Avenue digs weren't really a clubhouse in the style of the fortified bunkers that housed the Hells Angels, members took to calling it the Lounge. Boxer had plans of putting in a coin-operated pool table too, but a distributor thought twice and nixed the idea, saying he didn't want to lose his table in the event of a police raid. For an outsider like Jamie Flans, the No Surrender crew might seem like an undisciplined but tough little army, or a secretive criminal enterprise. From the inside, however, Boxer's gang didn't really do much of anything. Crash and Pony often worked 12-hour days driving their tow trucks, but most club members didn't have jobs. Chopper Raposo, who had driven a truck for a mushroom canning firm back in his loner days, now smoked weed in his parents' upstairs apartment and watched a lot of daytime television. Bam Bam Salerno kept busy with his get-rich-quick schemes and housework. Big Paul Sinopoli had worked for a few months in a sporting goods store in Aurora in early 2000 and had planned for a little while to become a forklift operator before giving up. He settled in quickly on Jefferson Avenue, lying on the couch for days at a time like a massive cat in the sun. He still lived in his family's basement, had no girlfriend, and privately fretted about his weight. The lounge was a place where he could feel part of something exclusive and powerful just by walking in the door. One friend of the club liked the parties and the souvenir t-shirts, but didn't see any point in actually getting his fat Mexican patch. I think it was a fantasy for them, the club friend said later. I just didn't see a life in that life. Wiener Kellerstein still claimed to run a security firm, and at a club meeting in February 2005, he declared that he wanted everyone, including club friends and hangarounds, to write down their names, addresses, and phone numbers. Apparently, he never bothered to check them out, just as he hadn't investigated Taz Sanham's past. At least one person present gave Kellerstein phony personal information that was never challenged. Also that month, Bam Bam Salerno made it clear that the club couldn't hold a meeting on February 14th. "We can't meet on Valentine's Day," Bam Bam informed the club. "My wife would kill me." In March, less than 2 months after they moved into the lounge, their new landlord refused to accept their rent check. Instead, he volunteered to refund their first and last month's rent if they would just leave immediately. Little Mikey Trotta, who had signed the lease, seemed relieved and didn't protest much. Boxer was sorely offended, but had no clue what they should do about it and let it pass. Ripper said they would have to retrieve the downstairs bar, which he and Chopper had painstakingly built. "No way they're leaving that material out there," Ripper said. "It's all brand new shit." The club then shuffled around from one meeting place to another. There was the Oriental Taste restaurant on Dundas Street East, near Yon Street and across the street from Fillmore Strip Club. The restaurant's owner would turn over the dining room on Saturday afternoons for a few $100s, unaware of the nature of the meetings. There was also the banquet hall of a nearby hotel and a hotel near the airport. By early April, the club was holding churches in a small farmhouse belonging to a club supporter in Stoverville off Highway 404. To get there, Banditos drove down a dirt road and up into the disheveled building, which was surrounded by the skeletons of cars that had ceased to run for years. At one memorable meeting, Wiener Kellerstein arrived with a carload of hangarounds, all of whom seemed terrified of him. He ordered them to speak in a clear voice when it was their turn, and they obeyed him like nervous schoolboys. It was as if Wiener was trying to bolster his region's strength, perhaps with an eye to setting up his own chapter. After just 6 weeks, the hangaround who owned the farmhouse simply bailed out, refusing to explain why the Banditos couldn't use his property any longer. Again, Boxer Musketeer was bewildered and angry, and again, he really didn't know what to do about it. Wiener Kellerstein arrived at Crash Caracas' wedding stage in April 2005 in a surly mood. Boxer had made it a compulsory event for no surrender crew members, friends, and hangarounds, so Wiener was required to make the 2-hour drive from his farm to the Speranza Banquet Hall in an industrial part of Brampton off Highway 407. The Speranza was a world away from Kellerstein's hillbilly empire. Its marble floors, chandeliers, skylit ceiling, and water fountain made all the bikers look a little out of place. Family members of both the bride and the groom were in attendance, nicely attired in suits. Bikers wore their colors, and Kellerstein sported his standard outfit, his fat Mexican vest and camouflage fatigue pants tucked into his black jack boots. It was easy that night to tell the bikers from the civilians. Crash's fiancée, Diane, was a polished, upright woman who clearly loved him. Out of respect for her, Crash had booked no strippers for his stag. In their place, there were prizes, games, and plenty of roast pig, red meat, seafood, and pasta. Wiener Kellerstein wasn't placated as he sat with Concrete Dave Weiche. When pan with tomato sauce was served as an opening course, Wiener sniffed, "Is this all there is? Where's the fucking food?" Boxer was in far better spirits, smiling and puffing on an old port cigarillo in a corner of the front lobby with other chapter members. It was hard that night for Crash's Bandito brothers not to get philosophical. Crash was marrying a nice, forgiving woman and seemed to have so much more to live for than a leather vest with a fat Mexican patch on the back. Bam Bam Salerno confided to a friend that he was thinking of moving on from the Bandito life, saying, "One day, when I have a baby and start another family, I'll be a retired member." He still had trouble settling his debts, but liked to offer special friends complimentary manicures and haircuts at his wife's salon, saying, "You'll feel 100% better. It's like buying a new pair of shoes." Club members noted that Crash should stay away from strippers, even though it would be fairly easy to hook up with one of Carlito Aragon's lap dancers from a club on the Queensway in Etobicoke. Bam Bam claimed that he was also a faithful man. "I'm not the best looking guy," Bam Bam confided to a friend. "I'm not Mr. Workaholic, bringing home a lot of money. But I'm not a womanizer. I don't cheat on her. I don't abuse her. I do my best within my abilities." Big Paul talked that night about stepping away from the club for at least a few months. He wanted to get his stomach stapled to control his enormous weight. He was struggling with diabetes and seemed on a crash course with a heart attack if he didn't quickly turn his health around. There also seemed to be something sad about him, as if he was still lonely, even though he was surrounded by constant talk of brotherhood. Boxer could be a frightening man, but he was gracious and supportive that night when Big Paul told him of his plans for the operation and hopes for a leave of absence from the club. "Well, hopefully things work out for you, brother," Boxer said. "Well, thanks a lot," Big Paul replied. "I need the support. I'm a little nervous." As the evening wound down, Boxer and the boys amused themselves by playing cards. While Wiener ordered someone he considered to be inferior to find him a hotel room, as he was too important a man for such a menial chore. A week later, on Sunday, May 7th, several of the Banditos missed Crash's wedding. It wasn't meant as a snub. The problem was money. For all their tough, swaggering gangster personas, several of them didn't have the $100 per head they would be expected to contribute towards the reception. It wasn't really shaping up to be a biker event anyway. Diane didn't want club colors worn at the wedding, telling Crash something to the effect of, "For one day, you don't have to be red and gold. For one day, you don't have to be a 1%er. When a Bandito named Beaver grumbled about not being allowed to wear club colors, Crash stuck up for Diane, saying, "Come on, bro, this is my wife's day."